Hi, I'm Vera Stewart, and thank you so much for inviting me into your home tonight. You know, I was looking in the yard this week and I thought, is that a daffodil getting ready to come up? And I thought, gosh, I'm ready for pies. I think about that this time of the year. So I thought tonight it would be a lot of fun to do 3 different pies. It's not all sweet tonight, so don't worry. We're going to do a wonderful lemon buttermilk pie. I'm going to do a delicious chicken pot pie. And then finally, remember that tomato pie that you used to get at VeryVera? Well, I'm going to share that recipe with you tonight. So 3 wonderful pies that you can use any time of the day or night. So let's get started with the lemon buttermilk pie. This is the easiest pie crust that you will ever make, and I did this right before we came on the air. You take all of the dry ingredients, the flour, the salt, and the sugar, and you put it in your food processor. Pulse it long enough to just get it incorporated. Then I added a half a stick of butter that was cubed and 3 tablespoons of Crisco, and you want to make sure that those are nice and good and cold. Then I pulsed it in the food processor for about 6 to 8 times, just until it looked like coarse meal. Then finally I added 4 tablespoons of cold water, pulsed that, and as you can see, all of a sudden it just turned into a ball, and that's what you're looking for. So no kneading, no worrying about whether you've incorporated the ingredients. The food processor does that for you. Now I've pulled it out onto a piece of wax paper, shaped it into a round disc, folded it up, and put it back in the refrigerator to chill for about 30 minutes. Took it out, got my floured surface ready on my cutting board. I rolled it out with the rolling pin, and I actually love to dust the rolling pin with flour a little bit before I get started. And what you're trying to accomplish is a nice circle to work with. I took my pie plate, put it on top of it, just so I could make sure I had my circle of the right size. Then I folded it into 4ths, making it really easy to transfer from the board to the pie plate. And then you just open it out. I used the technique today of a flute that you do, and so I did a fluted border on the outside, and now I'm ready to do the contents. I pricked it with a fork, baked it for a few minutes in the oven at 400 degrees, put a parchment circle with dried beans for 10 minutes, and then I took that away before I put it back in the oven for the second time. So now let's do the inside of the pie, and it calls for granulated sugar, flour, and 4 eggs. 3 eggs actually, 3 large eggs. And I'm just going to mix this with my wire whisk. This is the fun part because you don't even have to pull your mixer out for this. All right, now I'm going to add a cup of buttermilk. And this is when people may say, oh, I'm not sure about buttermilk. I don't know that I want to eat that pie. My mom actually used to drink buttermilk. I could not understand it. But what you're going to taste when you bake this pie is the lemon. Okay, so let's get that incorporated really well. Now a half a stick of melted butter. Love all these ingredients tonight. And then a tablespoon, a hefty tablespoon of lemon zest. And then 3 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon. So that 1 tablespoon actually accounted for almost the entire lemon, and these 3 tablespoons is basically the juice that came out of that 1 lemon. So just so you'll know how much to purchase. And then I've got a teaspoon of vanilla. All right, so that's all there is to it, to the contents. We're going to take this pre-baked pie shell. I'm going to fill it with the filling. It's going to go in a 350-degree oven for 50 to 60 minutes. You want to make sure that it's not real shaky in the center. And then you want to certainly chill it before you serve it. So I'm going to get this in the oven, and when we come back from the break, we're going to get started on that delicious chicken pot pie, just like your mama made it. Hey, welcome back, and if you're just joining us, you've missed the buttermilk lemon pie getting prepared and in the oven, but don't worry, you're going to get to sample it at the end. And now we are getting started on the delicious chicken pot pie. And this is one of those comfort foods that probably takes everybody back to their childhood. I know it does for me, and if my two sons are watching right now, I used to, on nights when I had worked all day long and, you know, I was kind of trying to come up with something really quick, there was never anything better than that quick chicken pot pie you could pull out of the freezer, but I have to say I didn't always make it myself. And I had a little song that I did called Chicken Pot Pie and I Don't Care, Chicken Pot Pie and I Don't Care, and they would get so excited because they thought their mom was crazy and she was getting ready to put this delicious meal on the table. But now she has graduated to a delicious version of that wonderful Southern food. This is a meal in itself. You can do this in a salad and you are completely done. So what I did before we came on the air is I got the butter melted in the pan. I'm using a stock pot because I'm going to add all these other ingredients to it, and have just cooked down the onions about a half a cup just until they're translucent. And now I'm going to add a third cup of just regular plain flour to that. And this is the basis for the good creamy center for that delicious pie. And you know, when you're making this sort of thing, you know, I'm using just the regular frozen vegetables at the grocery store right now, but if you'll hang on to some of those good summer vegetables and get them in the freezer, you can really make a delicious chicken pot pie with some of those ingredients that you've saved over from the summer, like taking the corn off the cob or freezing some butter peas or butter beans would be really good in this. Carrots are always good. You might want to add extra of your favorite vegetable. Okay, so now to this, I'm going to add a cup and a half of chicken stock. And I love to use Fresh Market's brand on this. Always is good. And as I always say, be sure to mark the box when you open it so that you can remember the expiration date when you get ready to use it again. As this is cooking and getting thick, let me talk to you a minute about how I'm making this very easy to make, because I just bought a rotisserie chicken at Fresh Market and I brought it home. All you do is literally just pull it apart with your hands. So quick and easy to do. And then once you've got it pulled apart, you can take the bones out, remove the skin, and literally in less than 5 minutes, I'm able to take my knife and cut it up into nice bite-sized pieces and just perfect. One chicken is just enough to make this recipe. It calls for about 4 cups of cut up chicken, so one rotisserie chicken is just perfect to do this. All right, so now you can see that this is starting to get nice and thick. And now I'm going to add in 2/3 of a cup of whole milk. And this is that wonderful, you know, when I was growing up, my favorite part of the chicken pot pie was this, the actual sauce and the crust. Maybe the vegetables, I kind of got a little picky with the peas. But this is one of those meals that this pie freezes really, really well. And if you're a newlywed out there, or you know, just looking for something that your children, your young children will eat, this is so good. And as long as you're doing it, you ought to do 2 at one time. This pot would hold enough to do 2. All right, so this is getting nice and thick, cooks down just enough. And while that's cooking, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the pie crust I love to use. I love to use Pillsbury's pie crust. There's just something about that brand that really works really well for this. Okay, so now I'm going to take it off the heat. I'm going to add in my chicken. And my mixed vegetables.